I've seen a list of candidates that you had. There are three names I can tell you right now, just calling around. And it's interesting because kind of the dynamics of sort of what is open is interesting to me because generally I think ownership groups nowadays, if they're in position where they're going to draft a quarterback and there's going to be an opening, they're sort of like, well, let's try to get an offensive coach. Let's say you look at a team like Denver. I think D'Amico Ryans, you talked about D'Amico Ryans with San Francisco, the defensive coordinator has been amazing. They love Dan Quinn the last time they went through the interviews. And then I think Jonathan Gannon with the Eagles. I really think those three guys, it would be rare to see this happen, but I really think there's a chance that we could see three defensive coordinators end up with head jobs, depending on what the openings are this offseason. Those three guys are at the top of everybody's like interview list if they haven't already interviewed. Denver already interviewed Quinn before. Three really good coordinators. I mean, Ryans to me.
Oh, he's amazing.
I mean, how did Houston? That's what blows my mind. Is I'm like, you're freaking out about what your candidate list. You had Jonathan Gannon on the list, right, last year. And this is just removing Lovey completely from the conversation because he was a left turn at the last second because I think they knew they couldn't, the lawsuit dropped and they knew they couldn't name Josh McCown their coach. But they had Jonathan Gannon on the list. I never understood why D'Amico Ryans, who's a like beloved in Houston, played in Houston.
Franchise legend.
Unbelievable.
I think D'Amico to Houston would be great because D'Amico represents what the best of the Houston Texans franchise has been. Like when it was him and Watt out there, like that's the best that the Texans have been felt. And I think that you obviously can't base the whole decision off this, but I think when you get a candidate that aligns where he's qualified based on the work that he's done, and it would just make people in Houston feel good.
Yeah,
I think
everything.
that matters a lot. And beyond just like what it would mean to Houston, like I really can't think of a defensive play caller that's been better than D'Amico over the past two seasons. It's like him and
Right.
Dan Quinn
Yep.
at the top of the list. And it's just, I don't know. I find the work that D'Amico's done that it just kind of blows my mind that he's been this good, like his first time when it comes to really having command of an entire defense. And look, I know that the 49ers have their defensive stars. But if I needed someone to come in and rebuild my defense, rebuild my culture, he would probably be at the top of my list.
That's why I think Dan Quinn, it depends what George Payton, the general manager in Denver, it depends on if ownership says to him, hey, this isn't working. We know it was your hire. We're going to give you a mulligan on it. Most general managers usually get two coaches. Not this quickly, granted, but it was in the middle of an ownership sale, kind of weird situation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to listen to you. And I think he would say that, hey, Dan, I love Dan Quinn. He was great. He was absolutely my backup, to this hire that I ended up making. And to me, you bring Quinn in, he immediately vibes with the defense, right? He's going to get everything he's going to get out of there. So the defense, I don't think is like a locker room problem, but this rivalry between the defense and the offense. But I think the question is, then how do you get Russell Wilson on track? Who are you bringing in to get Russ where he needs to be? Because if it's not going to be the head coach, it's going to have to be someone else. And I think it's okay in this situation because say an OC comes in and it ends up being a really good OC. They get Russ on track for a couple seasons. Let's say Denver's offense plays well and he gets hired away. Well, Russ is a veteran. At that point, he knows how to manage this offense. He knows whoever comes in is going to learn as much from Russell as Russell's going to learn from the OC. So I do think this is the rare situation where it can work. I don't like it when it's like you got a defensive coach, great OC, super young quarterback who blossoms, and then the OC, Brian Daboll, gets hired away. And then you're like, like we just lost, that guy should have been our head coach so he could stay with the quarterback through his career. I think DQ could work in Denver. I really do.
I think he could too. And I think to a degree, like when you're Russell Wilson, you play this much football, and you're getting paid what you are. you kind of got to start figuring it out on your own.
Hmm.
I like as bad as the Broncos offense has been, and I think it's going to end up costing Hacker his job. Like it can't really be ignored that you paid Russell Wilson all that money and paid those and traded those draft picks for him to get this as your result. Like that's undoubtedly horribly frustrating, and Russell deserves a big chunk of blame for how bad this offense has been. But they're going to have to figure it out. I don't really think an offensive minded head coach or a defensive minded head coach matters too much for Denver. They just need to get the best guy in there just to start
Absolutely.
turning this thing around.
That is 100%. I'm with you.